Welcome back everyone to Henderson State University's Department of Aviation's Heart Start information sessions. We are now going to complete our 3 sessions by doing session 3 of 3. So far we have talked about our aviation program in general. We let you know about our professional pilot program and our aviation management program in session 1. And in session 2 we got more into the specifics of how to budget for flight training if you're in the professional pilot program. And now, in session 3, we're going to talk about what's our next step so that we can be on campus in fall as an aviation major. So what do you need to do to start flying? Well, there's 4 things. Well, let's say 5. You're probably already aware that you need to attend a Heart Start session. Your admission counselor will be working with you on that. But these 4 things that we're going to talk about today will occur while you are here at Heart Start. And that Heart Start session for aviation is on June 7th, by the way. So what do we need to do? First thing we're going to do is conduct an entrance interview. Now this is not aviation specific, meaning we're not going to ask you anything about aeronautics or airplanes or anything. It's just a get to know you interview. There's a standardized set of questions that we ask every incoming student. Again, just as a means to get to know you. Another thing we have to do is verify your citizenship. We call that TSA verification. The Transportation Security Administration requires us by law to make sure that either you are, 1, a U.S. citizen, and we have to verify that, or 2, if you are a non-citizen of the United States, then we have other procedures we have to do, other paperwork to take into account on that. So we will need you to do that. The third thing that we'll need you to do is open an aviation account. What do I mean by that? Well, as a student on campus, you're going to have a student account, and that student account pays your tuition and such. As an aviation professional pilot major, if you are going through professional pilot and not through aviation management, then you will have a second account that will pay for your flying. So you'll need to open that aviation account. That requires a $500 minimum deposit to open the account, and then you must maintain a balance of $500 in that account prior to any flight that you go take. So we'll do that during that Heart Start session as well. And then the next thing you need to do is, well, one of the things you need to do before Heart Start, I guess is the better way to state it, you need to get your medical and student pilot certificate. Now that student pilot certificate, that's like a driver's license of sorts. It's a piece of plastic issued by the FAA, and that is actually done by our flight instruction staff while you are here. So that will either be done on June 7th, or that might actually be done on your first day in your flight lab. But the other thing we're talking about is your medical certificate. Now this is something that Henderson does not do, but the FAA requires. As a pilot, you have to obtain a medical stating that you are fit to fly. And you do that by going to what's called an aviation medical examiner, and we call those AMEs. So you go to your aviation medical examiner and get either a first class, second class, or third class medical. Where you find those AMEs, they're in our information booklet, and we have a QR code where you can download that information booklet, but you can also go to the link on the board here of www.faa.gov/pilots/AME locator. When you go visit your AME, let them know that you're going into a professional pilot program and you would like to be screened through a first class medical instead of a third class. Technically, by the letter of the law, you only need a third class medical, but a lot of people like to go ahead and get a first class medical as their first one to make sure that you will qualify as an airline pilot. So we recommend that you get that first class medical. Like we said, on your aviation account, you must open with a $500 deposit, and then you must have $500 in that account prior to each flight. Now, if you're not able to open that aviation account through the Heart Start session, you can still enroll in all the courses for the fall. The only exception is you will not be allowed to enroll in the Intro to Aeronautics lab if you cannot open that flight account. And at that time, you will be listed as an aviation management major until you can get your flight account open. Now, that's no issue at all because the first semester of the classes are very similar between aviation management and professional pilot, with the exception of that intro to aeronautics lab. The thing is, we don't want to list you as a professional pilot major if you're not able to start flying that lab. So that's, again, no big deal. It's just kind of technicalities. Once you open that aviation account, then we can change your major from aviation management to professional pilot. It's just paperwork and no big thing. So how do we schedule flight labs? Well, we use seniority-based scheduling, and that's going to come into play as you're scheduling your first flight lab through the Heart Start sessions. So all across campus on Henderson, when it's time to register for classes, seniors will be allowed to register for classes before juniors, juniors before sophomores, sophomores before freshmen, and then freshmen before incoming freshmen, meaning the current freshmen on campus can register in the spring semester for their upcoming classes, uh, and then incoming freshmen will be scheduling for classes as you are on June 7th and through the Aviation Heart Start session. If you're not able to start flying in the fall due to either being in athletics and that athletics calendar or logistics and schedule will not uh, mesh with a flying schedule, or if you have other factors, don't worry about that. You can still start flying in the spring semester. And again, this is where that seniority-based scheduling comes into play. So if by some chance you cannot get into the intro to aeronautics lab as a professional pilot major the fall semester, you will still be able to start flying in the spring semester for whatever reasons you may have on not needing to fly that fall semester, whether it be on getting your flight account open, a lab not being open for you to get into when you have your time of availability, and so on and so forth. Also, flight labs are offered in the summer sessions. Let's say that you do not start flying the fall semester. You start with the Intro to Aero Lab in the spring semester. You can still fly through the summer. You can enroll in the flight labs in the summer and take those during that time as well. It's important to know that aviation majors are required to have a minor. We do not tell you what that minor has to be. It is not departmentally driven. You get to choose the minor that you want. We always recommend that you find something that really piques your interest, that can complement or supplement aviation. What you might want to think about is, what if it's 20 years down the road and for some reason I cannot maintain my flight physical, my medical? What am I going to do? Well, it would be wise if you could stay with your company and just not be a pilot. So what are some other broad categories that the company may need? We advise perhaps minoring in business administration or information technology and computer science, because those things impact all across the board with basically any company. So you'd have a greater chance of maybe transitioning to another part of an airline or corporate structure if you have a business minor to back that up, or an information technology minor. Another point I like to make that kind of backs up what we said earlier about how we actually can fly in the summer too. So the degree plan that you're looking at when you download the QR code and it's showing an 8 semester degree plan, that does not depict those summer semesters, because we have to show that what can be done on an 8 semester degree plan. But that degree plan is not cast in stone. It is malleable. So you can fly during the summer. Um, we even fly when campus is closed for Christmas break. So we even keep flight operations open for spring break. So in between campus sessions, so let's say school's out for the summer, there'll be 2 or 3 weeks between the spring semester and when summer session one starts. We will still fly during that 2 to 3 week break. In other words, we really don't close flight operations except for the major holidays. So you'll be able to fly through the summers too, even though they're not depicted on the 8 semester degree plan. That's some other options for you. Now, you are required as a professional pilot major to have an iPad. We're going to use that in the airplane, and we have to have a level of standardization for safety. So we need everyone using the same device and the same software. We call this an electronic flight bag. We use the product called ForeFlight. It's a subscription service that you will also have to subscribe to. It's got a range from a basic subscription to a very robust subscription. We only require that you have the basic, and you do get a $50 discount by being a Henderson student. I believe the current rate for the basic would be $99 a year, and I believe that is uh, after the $50 discount. I believe it's normally $149.99. Then we take the discount. So that's another expense you need to plan on. You need to have an iPad as well as ForeFlight. Now the iPad, there's different sizes. We don't dictate which size you have, but you need to think about what would be the best size to use in a small cockpit of an aircraft. The iPad mini actually fits the best, but the next size up works just as well. So if you already have an iPad and it's not the mini, don't feel like you have to absolutely go out and get a second iPad. Try your first one, make sure it works for you, and if it works fine, that's well. But the the iPad mini really seems to be the best size format. But again, the next size up works well as well. Now the largest format, that would be a little bit too big to take. So again, what's our next steps? You need to register for the Aviation Heart Start session that will be held on June 7th. Like we said, that's when you're going to register for your classes, all your aviation classes, your other core classes. You'll be working with the mission counselors to get you into your specific classes. That's also the date you'll get your ID made, visit with financial aid, etc. And like I said, that's when you'll also be in process in the Department of Aviation. So it's a everything done in one day event. So uh, as you're coming onto campus, what's the next things to do to be ready to start school? You need to register for Heart Start on June 7th. Now we really need everyone to attend this Aviation Heart Start session on June 7th in as much as possible. Now we do know there may be some circumstances for members that's in the National Guard where they cannot adjust their schedule to be here on June 7th. If that's the case, you can still register for classes virtually with your academic advisor, and then attend an aviation in processing session that we will have on August 13th. That's the Friday before classes start on the following Monday. Uh, we really we really prefer that you do the June 7th Heart Start session, if at all possible, because it just goes so much more seamless to get everything done. But if you cannot attend June 7th because of extenuating circumstances, then you can still register for classes and be in process on August 13th. Again, what will in processing require? What will we do? It's that entrance interview that we talked about, which again is not a technical interview of aviation topics. It's a good get to know you interview. We mentioned having to verify that you're a U.S. citizen, or doing other appropriate paperwork if you're not a U.S. citizen. How do you show that you're a U.S. citizen? Well, one, you can bring us a current U.S. issued passport, and you need to bring it that day. That's what we're talking about in processing. What do you need to bring? You need to bring your current U.S. issued passport, or, and this is what most people do, bring your current driver's license and an original birth certificate. We cannot accept photocopies. By law, we have to fill the raised seal on your birth certificate. So make sure that you bring the original. You're able to take it back home with you. We don't keep it. We will actually make a photocopy for our records, but we have to verify that it's an original by filling that raised seal. So when you come to Heart Start on June 7th, bring your current driver's license and an original birth certificate, or if you happen to have one, your current U.S. issued passport. We mentioned earlier about your aviation account. You will open that aviation account while you're on campus for Heart Start on June 7th. Like we said, you must open that with a minimum of a $500 deposit. And then you need to bring your medical certificate issued with you. That's what you're going to get from your AOME. So you have a little bit of homework and you have plenty of time to do this, but don't wait until the last minute, because you have to get scheduled with your AOME. and it might take 2 or 3 weeks to get in depending upon the physician's schedule. So go ahead and locate an aviation medical examiner through the link we provided. Get a first class medical is what we recommend. Technically, you can get a third class medical and start flying, but we like everyone having the assurance of knowing they can pass a first class medical. So schedule your aviation medical exam with an aviation medical examiner. You find that particular examiners through that link. Not any physician can do it. They have to be approved by the FAA. That's why they're called aviation medical examiners. They're approved by the FAA, and that's where you find them on the link. So bring that medical with you. And then, like I said, you also have to have a student pilot certificate. We are planning to be issuing those to you on June 7th. If that happens to not occur, no worries. We can do that on your first day of your flight labs on campus. But we should have ample flight instruction staff on hand on June 7th to issue your student pilot certificate. You need to continue monitoring your emails for updates regarding Aviation Heart Start session on June 7th in case there's any tweaks or changes to that. I don't anticipate any, but again, you need to pay attention to your emails regularly to see if there's been any changes, and also just in case there's any changes in COVID-19 guidance. So please, please, please monitor your emails. Well, that's it. Be glad to answer any questions you may have. You can email them to aviation@hsu.edu. Be glad to follow up. And like we said earlier, there is a QR code that you can scan for a complete aviation booklet. That's been available through all 3 sessions. That has the degree plan as well as the finance information for budgeting. So again, I really look forward to having you on campus this fall. Look forward to flying with you. And if you have any questions, please email us at aviation@hsu.edu. Thank you and have a good day.